entire thing. And what his explanation of it was that his bomb was a deterrent. A deterrent to what? We're just, normal, everyday people. A deterrent, it made absolutely no sense.
Good day. My name is Alistair Crowley. The film you're about to witness is an actual documentary shot several decades ago by some ordinary citizens of the San Fernando Valley. By now, even the most young student of history is familiar with what occurred 44 years ago in the San Fernando Valley. A madman got a hold of a nuclear bomb, exploded it, destroying most sections of the valley. What follows is a cautionary tale, but it is true. There's no acting involved, and the participants all were speaking what they believed at the time. As you will recall, by the late 20th century, the threat of nuclear annihilation on an international, global sense had almost completely vanished with the passing of the Cold War, as the Soviet Union entered, reluctantly albeit, the Fellowship of Man. However, this did not diminish the possibility of nuclear annihilation on another level. This time, nuclear holocaust took a rather local flavor. With the information age, dawned or spawned, some say, by the emergence of the personal computer, the technology and hardware of the Pentagon became available to mom and pop. This led to the emergence of nuclear enclaves throughout the North American continent, as citizens vied with each other to see who could store up the most arsenal or materiel to show their strength. Might meant right in those days. As you will see, this had its disastrous consequences. It was a phenomenon which could have been predicted, yet could not have been prevented. There were pundits in the late 20th century that warned of such dire consequences.
For the future is not between the superpowers and not in Europe, but in the third world.
The real danger, and this is something I feel very strongly about, is the potential of Gaddafi or some other similar leader of a relatively small country will get a nuclear weapon.
The story begins, as all stories begin, with the tale of a father.
I've heard things about him building a bomb in his backyard. I just can't believe that. My boy would never do anything like that. He's a good boy. When he was just a little one, he built himself a fort in his backyard, and Yeah, well, he used to beat the hell out of all the other little boys, but, that's the way little kids are. And, well, I suppose some of the neighborhood kids used to get on him and say all sorts of mean things, but, my boy, he was a good boy, and he would never do anything like that. I remember when he was about 11 years old, he bought himself a policeman's outfit, and he went around terrorizing everybody in the neighborhood. But, well, that's the way little boys are. Oh, shut up, you dang fool dog!
So we're sitting eating, sort of like this. And Harry tells me, hey, the weird guy up the street, sort of funny looking with glasses, kind of the big beer gut, huh? He's got a bomb. He's got a bomb in his backyard. Well, of course I didn't believe him. I said, oh, you're crazy, Harry, Who would believe him? So I decided to check it out myself, I was walking along the path over in the back, and I see this huge silver thing, gigantic, like this. It looks like, what do you call the phallic symbols? I think one of those things. Huge, just gigantic. I mean, it just goes just way up. I thought, well, maybe that's the bomb.
I was horrified. My husband didn't say anything for 20 minutes. He just sat there quietly thinking about it. I went over to this guy and I said, what are you doing? This is a bedroom community. This is a community of homes. What are you doing with a bomb in your backyard? And he says, it's a deterrent. A deterrent? A deterrent to what? Does he think that every one of us is going to bring in a bomb? Doesn't he know that puts us right in the middle of things? They're going to attack us, and they're going to bomb New York. They're going to bomb Chicago, LA, and Puerto Ridge. I mean, it's going to put us on the map just before it takes us off the map.
I've only lived here for about 6 months, and when I first moved in, I heard all kinds of stuff. But whenever you move into a neighborhood, you hear all kinds of rumors. It didn't mean anything to me. And one morning, I guess it was about 6:30, right? Walking the dog. I do it every morning just to get ready for work. And then I notice in this guy's backyard, it's the guy everyone's been talking about, but there really was something there. I heard all this talk about a bomb and stuff, but I never really, I thought it was a joke. I heard the kids talking about it. But, there was something there. So, when I got to work that day, I called one of the neighbors who had mentioned it before. And he goes, he said, yeah, this is what we've been telling you about. There is a bomb in this guy's backyard. So I asked him, what's the deal? Was he in the military? Is he part of some, is this a regular house or what? And he goes, yeah, the guy just wanted a bomb for his own protection.
I was walking home from Thrifty, and I saw this huge metallic thing kind of peering over the back of the fence, and it looked like, I don't know, a huge gray jelly bean. And I really couldn't see what it was, and I kind of peeked over, and it looked like a bomb to me, and I was just, I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I was just dismayed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to call. I thought I was dreaming it or something. It was pretty terrible. All the neighbors are upset, and myself included, and my husband's pretty upset, and I can't imagine why anybody would have a bomb in their backyard. What kind of a nut, what kind of a maniac is he? It's really upsetting. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to call. I don't know what to say. I mean, is this it? It really disgusts me more than anything. It's revolting.
Every madman, of course, has his own story to tell. The madman from the San Fernando Valley was no different than any other.
Years ago, and I'm speaking to you frankly about this one.
I'm over in the yard and one of the dogs gets loose. And one of the neighbors complains. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, the dog's loose. What am I going to do about this? Anyways, I go and catch him, but the neighbor is kind of upset. I don't understand it. I said it won't happen again. Nonetheless, he says, your dog is coming into my yard quite often. If he comes in anymore, I'm going to get some buckshot. Well, I'm thinking, Jesus, that's a rather drastic type of remedial action. So I go and I get myself a rifle. Alright? And the dog gets loose into his yard. He doesn't fire. Mainly because I come over with my rifle. And yeah, I mean I threatened his kids. So, you know, who's to blame? And, you know, I got to thinking, a rifle, it could jam on me. It might not fire. What am I to do? So a few weeks later, I went out and I bought a bazooka. That bazooka, it's a two-way loader. I could have it set up in the front yard with a trigger mechanism. Yeah, sure, I know kids could get hurt if they fool around with it, but I put a sign up. And the sign's very precise, it's danger, keep away. Anyways, I got to thinking, you know, that's not enough. So I went over to my friend Albert. Albert, he knows a lot about mechanics and things and nuclear devices. So I asked him, could you build me a small nuclear weapon?
He comes to me and he says, Albert, I want you to build me a bomb. Well, I tell him, you know, my name is not Albert, my name is Rajiv Khan. Why do you call me Albert? He does not dissuade him. He tells me I must build the bomb. I say, why me? Why do I have to build you the bomb? I do not know how to do this. He says, yes, you have the technical expertise and the know-how. You went to UCLA. Well, I said, this is true, but I majored in art history. He says, no, you must do it. I say, I will not do it. He says, I will have you deported back to Bangladesh if you do not comply with my wishes. I said, you cannot have me deported. I have my papers. He says, no, I have seen a photo of you with the cow and with the handcuffs and with the pH balanced shampoo. You know, I'm Hindu, so I could not let these photos get out because it could look very bad for me. You know, this is taboo. So I tell him, okay, I will build you your bomb, but you know, you get out of town, man, because I'm not going to do it right now. And he says, no, you must do it immediately. I say, I cannot do it immediately. He says, no, I need the bomb now because the neighbors are getting very angry at me. I said, extend me a line of credit, man. I cannot do it. Anyways, we haggle over this for many, many days. Finally, I say, okay, I will do it. And he gives me a picture with specifications of what the bomb's supposed to look like and where he wants it in his backyard and everything. So I say, okay, I think I can do this, but it's going to take me a few days. I go to the hardware store, to the local, you know, Albert's hardware store or something like that. And I tell the man I want 17 lug nuts and 43 3/8-inch bolts and 16 2x4 sheets of plywood and 13 ounces of uranium-238. Well, the man at the hardware store raises his eyebrows when I say, you know, the plywood because he does not have that much in stock, but I get it anyway. And I build this contraption. It takes me a few days to do it. And I watched this PBS special where they show you how to do this, so I did it. And he had his bomb.
He thinks I'm a little crazy, a little cockeyed, but I give him a good, healthy sum in advance. And within, I'd say, 2 months I have it. And damn, if it ain't the biggest giant thing I've ever seen. I mean, it takes up the whole backyard. Well, it was very useful, and neighbors did keep away. I had no problems when I first installed the bomb. The problems arose.
Dark clouds appeared on the horizon. After it was installed, the neighbors became quite angry and demanded that he disarm. He consistently refused. He consistently said he needed the deterrent value. Deterrence? Deterrence for what, the neighbors demanded. It made no sense. Yet he persisted. What could stop the madman? What could stop the madness?
My neighbor, kept talking about deterrence, about he felt threatened. And we just told him, we're just ordinary people. How can we possibly harm you? I just don't understand what you mean deterrent. Deterrent to what?
We tried to make some kind of arrangement with him, but the man would not listen. He is totally crazy. He said, "What is it that you want? We will try to reason with you." But he really wouldn't tell us.
Threatening people. He's jeopardizing everybody's security. He wears plaid shorts. Now, does that sound like a person that's stable? Frankly, I'm terrified. I am scared to death. I don't know what we're supposed to do. We're just about ready to pack up and move to someplace safe. I was in the Bay of Pigs in 1961 when we invaded Cuba, and that was the last time I was this scared. Until this cabron with the bomb, he starts threatening us. At first, well, at first I thought he was joking, but he showed me a picture of this cow with the pH balanced shampoo, and I know he wasn't. And I was just scared. He, if he could take a picture like that, there's no telling what he could do. He's clearly a madman. The neighbors became concerned, and they turned to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in a vain attempt.
2nd of February, I received an inquiry from a resident, a homeowner, in fact, in the neighborhood of which we're speaking, and something about a nuclear weapon of some sorts. I told him that the person would probably have to have a permit for this sort of thing, but the gentleman was irate, and so I sent him a few forms to fill out. He sent them back, the 2022 form, and he sent it back in. I was kind of surprised, because the guy struck me as a crank. We get that sort of thing in the government, And my boss insisted that I go out and investigate this thing, so I went out there, and in fact he did have a nuclear device. It was a warhead. It was an armed warhead. Had to know the regulations on the subject and learned that if it's an unarmed warhead, it has to be licensed and is carefully regulated. But an armed warhead, as this one was, the regulations simply don't apply. I checked the Hague Convention. I checked a number of SALT treaties and other treaties and found that there was simply no regulation. And so I naturally explained to Mr. Wilson, who made the inquiry, that there was simply nothing the government can do to deal with this situation. It's beyond my jurisdiction, and quite frankly, I don't dabble in things that are beyond my jurisdiction. The owner of the warhead came forth with some rather direct and apparently sincere proposals to disarm. He claims he wishes to reduce tension in the neighborhood and wants a more pleasant environment around the neighborhood. And so he proposed a disarmament plan where he would dismantle his entire nuclear arsenal if the other neighbors would dismantle their entire nuclear arsenals. This presented this was kind of a sticking point for the other neighbors because they didn't have nuclear arsenals, and the talks tended to break down around that issue, kind of a technical issue that arms control specialists are familiar with, that ordinary neighbors like these folks they're just ordinary folk. They aren't government people. They don't understand these sort of things. So I tried to explain, trying to stay out of it, not get involved in negotiations, but try to help them along a little bit. And I did point out that the .22 caliber rifle was a conventional weapon and could not be discussed in the same talks as these discussions, and those would have to be dealt with in an entirely separate manner. A counter proposal came from the neighbors that they would dismantle their .22 caliber rifle and the barking dog. Well, of course, that is an entirely separate matter too, because that's a personnel issue, and the SPCA has to be involved. I told them that could not be within the scope.
The government failed, the local community organized.
Where it stands now is that he refuses to disarm. He keeps throwing in our face this disarmament on his part, that he has the bomb and we don't. What we're going to have to do is come up with our own bomb. Now, that could be one bomb for the group, or we're going to have to come up with one bomb for each one of us in the cul-de-sac. That's our 8 bombs versus his 1 bomb. Once we get everybody with a bomb, do you think we're going to be able to get the neighbors to disarm their bombs? What we'll have is a cul-de-sac full of bombs. It's going to ruin the property values.
This guy, get together and try to make a peace treaty with him to get him to disarm this bomb, but he wants us to come across with something that will be unilaterally the same. In other words, we don't have a bomb and he's got one, so why should he do it? But I think if we get together and maybe invite some of our relatives, like people from East LA, to move up here, then we'd be okay. We have something to bargain with.
There's this negotiation committee, right? Which I had heard about, and which, originally I thought was kind of a silly thing. But that was before I realized the nuke was for real. So I thought, let's give it a shot. And I joined the committee to talk over with the guy, what does he want us to do in order for him to get rid of the bomb? Is he just keeping the bomb for his own purposes, or does he want something? It seemed as though he wanted something. And so we get together and we talk with him. And sure enough, yeah, he wants something, but no one can figure out what the heck it is that he wants. He says, well, the bomb is there for deterrence. Deterrence. I can't figure that out. Deterrence to a bunch of neighbors living on your block. Deterrence for what does he expect us to be doing? Is it a nuclear bomb for deterrence in your backyard to keep your neighbors away? So the negotiations were a fiasco. We ask them, all right. We get away from the deterrence aspect. What do you want us to do in order for you to get rid of the bomb? And he goes, well, I'm not just going to give it away for nothing. You've got to give something up too. Well, what? What does he want us to give up?
Try to negotiate with this man several times, and it always seemed to break through because, as a community, a neighborhood, we've had nothing to negotiate with. I mean, we don't have anything to give in exchange for his disarmament, and he's talking, somewhat of a détente or some kind of peaceful coexistence, and there's nothing that lends to such an agreement as far as the neighborhood is concerned. I mean, we've never threatened him, and I can't foresee any need to threaten this man, and his talking of what are we going to give for his disarmament just kind of throws me off quite a bit. I don't understand
the situation, and got together about the situation, see what was going on and everything, and how we wanted him to disarm this stupid bomb. I couldn't believe that we were actually doing this in 1985. And we got together with him and we asked him, you know, why he had this bomb or what was going on, and we wanted to come to some sort of civil agreement about the entire thing. And what his explanation of it was that his bomb was a deterrent. A deterrent to what?
Nothing seemed to get through to him, and nothing seemed to have worked.
One of the first instances in which I had trouble with the neighbor, this was shortly after the installation of the bomb, and it was my neighbor to the right. He came over, he was quite distressed. He said, we hear you have a bomb in your backyard. It would appear that it really serves no purpose. I don't know why you have it there, and I'm quite nervous. You know, I thought, well, fair enough. I think I would be a little nervous if someone had a bomb in their backyard. And he was really worried because there'd been all this stuff in the papers recently about, you know, nuclear radiation and whatnot, and he thought he was like living next to a hazardous dump or something, if I can analogize. Anyways, he brought home to me the fact that he did not like living next to a person with a bomb. I told him I could understand his point, but there wasn't much I could do about it because I was really not in that position. I had the bomb solely for defensive purposes. I, under no circumstances, would use it as a first strike weapon. And I think most of the neighbors knew that and believed me when I said that because I was speaking forthrightly. Anyways, the incident occurred when he became very adamant in his position, and he said that in no uncertain terms that I was to dismantle the bomb. I told him I would not do that, and that if we were to negotiate, we'd have to have some sort of quid pro quo. Well, of course, that'd be impossible in this situation because he, in fact, did not have a bomb. He had nothing, basically. He may have had a gun, which is certainly, if I were to reduce, it would put me at a disadvantage. And so you can see my dilemma, why I was really not in a position to do anything like that. What I told him was I wasn't going to reduce, that unless we could bargain in good faith, you know, some sort of quid pro quo, that he was to stay on his side of the property, and if he had problems with that, he could come visit me and my bomb. Anyways,
A last gasp, in a vain, desperate attempt, former President Carter was called in to see if he could solve the dilemma and reach agreement.
Time he was finished reading just the names of his grandchildren, his lip was trembling and he had tears in his eyes, and I had tears in my eyes. And we began to talk about the future of the world for our grandchildren if we didn't have peace. And we parted. I went back to my cabin. In about 15 minutes, he sent word over that he had accepted the issue that he had previously rejected. And it was from there that we went on very quickly and concluded the agreement.
I had not seen him in many months, and I was kind of worried because I heard that, you know, people in the neighborhood were getting very upset and they formed a committee and everything. But I was not that worried because I never activated a bomb. You see, he did not know this. Even if he wanted to blow up something, he could not have blown the snot out of his nose, man, because the bomb was not activated. I tricked him about this. Anyways, I'd heard that the neighborhood committee had got some ex-president, you know, the one with the hostage situation, the big smile right there. Yes, that is the one. And he had negotiated a settlement that everyone agreed to. Well, you can imagine how surprised I was when he comes to me and he tells me that the settlement is off and that he wants to blow up the neighborhood. Well, I tell him this that, why is the settlement off? He says he was tricked. He said he had bargained for a bilateral treaty, that is, the other side gives up their nuclear arms and gives up his. Well, he says he found out that it was not bilateral, that it was unilateral, that only he gave up his nuclear bombs, but the other side, they gave up conventional forces, including rifles and guns and revolvers, and one man gave up, those very mean dogs in the neighborhood that fight the little children, the pit bull. And when he finds this out, he says, I'm going to blow up the neighborhood. Well, I tell him, I'm not going to help you in this. He says, I know the bomb is not activated. I want you to activate it. Well, he threatens me with the pictures of the cow once again, and I had no choice. I tell him, you must give me a few days to get my family out of town when I activate the bomb. So I do those things that are necessary. In retrospect, I think it was a big mistake, but I do activate the bomb. Before that time, I leave, and I relocated my family, and we have a nice little house in Whittier, which is a lovely.
With them, that a threat now that the world knows how to make such a weapon will always be that sometime, someplace, there may be a madman in the world who comes along and decides to use that weapon.
No one likes us, I don't know why. We may not be perfect, but heaven knows we try. But all around, even our old friends put us down. Let's drop the big one and see what happens. We give them money, but are they grateful? No, they're spiteful and they're hateful. They don't respect us, so let's surprise them. We'll drop the big one, pulverize them. Asia's crowded, Europe's too old, Africa's far too hot and Canada's too cold. South America stole our name. Let's drop the big one, there'll be no one left to blame us. We'll save Australia, don't wanna hurt no kangaroo. We're building all-American amusement park there. They got surfing too.